to Eureka Street. Everything here is DIY and a little bit janky. I mean, look at me. Seriously. Do I scream professional to you? Enjoy your time here. Take it for what it is. And have fun.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Eureka John, and you're at Eureka Street Crypto, broadcasting live at 5:44 in the morning on Monday morning, January 24th, 2022. This is episode number 396. Yep, that it is. And I've been doing this since October 24th, 2020. And I would say I've been doing it every day. However, this last weekend, I did not broadcast live, and I did not record either. I said, you know what? I think I will take the weekend off. And that's exactly what I did. I took the weekend off, and, when I first started, I had these visions of doing this every single morning, which I have been doing every single morning, and it's been fun. And I've come a long way. I've learned a lot. I've met a bunch of really cool people. I've joined DAOs. Yeah, man, it's been amazing. And I've enjoyed it every step of the way. However, there comes a point where I have to realize that I have to take a break sometimes, And this inner voice in my head that's sitting there like a little Nazi war officer sitting there saying that I have to maintain my discipline and keep it up every single morning, barking at me. You know what? I just need to say silence and just tell it to hush for a second. Because you know what, man? I'm going to take a break. Okay? Because of all these people that I've met and all these DAOs that I've joined and all the stuff that I'm doing has gathered a little bit of attention. And so I'm getting some paid jobs by doing podcasts and doing graphics and animation and things like that. And so at the beginning, when I was doing my show, I did not have all this extra stuff to do. So it was just this. But now it's this and a bunch of extra stuff that I'm doing. And then I'm getting ready to go to work here in the rain. So I have my other regular old day job where I'm down at the factory. Yep, I work down at the factory. Manufacture those hose, sell them hose on every area code. Yes, that's what I do. So I have a real job and I have all this extra side work coming in, which is great. So hopefully I can quit my real job. And then, then of course I still want to do my show because I love my show. And this is my morning show. This is my time for crypto and to be able to have a brain dump and talk about what's going on in the crypto market. So speaking of what's going on in the crypto market, so let's look at these 7-day drops here. It's been absolutely dismal. If you're not, even if you're a veteran in the crypto market, you're still looking at this being like, ooh, wow, yeah. The worst dip that I've been in was in March 2020 because I got into crypto in 2018, right after the very first worst total dip, after the 2018 boom and the ICO craze, and then there was that dip after that, and I got in that dip after that. So I didn't know any better. And then, March 2020, yeah, that was a pretty bad dip, but whatever, it's like, yeah. But it happened, and everybody got through it. And then we went through a major bull run. Okay. So now we're at another dip, and that's what happens in the crypto market. And all you got to do is, when in doubt, zoom out, and you will realize that this is all moving upwards together, and everybody takes steps back together and then moves up together. But like I said, a lot of influencers have dropped off and all this other stuff, and I'm not really in it. Of course I want to make money. Everybody wants to make money from it, but I really am in it for the tech. Man, I do like the tech. I think the tech is pretty cool, really interesting. I've always been into techie stuff. So here I am at Bitcoin at $33,797.48, down 21.5% in the past 7 days. So if you're new and fresh from the stock market, you're looking at this and your butthole's puckering, man. So you're just like, oh, and it's no big deal, man. I believe in the future of Web3, of crypto, cryptocurrency and cryptographic methods, digital cash, and everything like that. I hear a lot of people too on more conspiracy-oriented sites, which I hate using the word conspiracy because there's a lot of truth behind a lot of that stuff, and I tend to follow down into that category as well. But a little more, I guess, sites and video sites that are a little more skeptical of the current mainstream narrative, I might say. Not conspiracy, because it's very healthy right now to be skeptical of the mainstream narrative, because there's nothing but dog crap coming out of the mainstream narrative. So anyway, a lot of those sites are skeptical of digital cash, saying that we're all going to be put on some kind of centralized controlled cryptocurrency. Well, I think they're confusing cryptocurrency for central bank digital, central bank CBDC, central bank digital currency, I believe. Yeah, whatever. But you know what I'm saying. And cryptocurrency at its heart is supposed to be decentralized. You know, that is where cryptocurrency carries its real value. It's what brought cryptocurrency into existence, was the whole idea of no censorship, of decentralization, you know, of a digital cash that any type of central intermediary could not control, not even a bank or a government. And a CBDC, on the other hand, is this, you know, where they would abolish all Bitcoin and Ethereum and anything like that, and they would make it illegal to run nodes, and you know, you would have this central bank issued token, or this central government issued token that you had to use, and you would be basically probably maybe given a UBI. You know, you'd be given a monthly drop, and you would be told, you know, what you can spend it on, how fast you have to spend it on, where you can spend it, and stuff like that. Your social credit score would determine, you know, all these factors, and you'd probably have to show proof of some kind of jab, you know, to prove that you, I mean, that you're immune, you know, from the sickness, you know. But you know, really, that would designate your ID and your qualification and your entrance into the social credit system. So that's a CBDC. So you have cryptocurrency over here, Bitcoin, Ethereum, a lot of decentralized tokens, things like Monero privacy tokens. You know, Monero are the pirate chain token, stuff like that. Zcash, you know, all these want to be uncensorable. They want to be decentralized, and they don't want to be controlled by a centralized establishment. Anyway, but the problem is the more you decentralize, the slower the blockchain is. So, because whenever you decentralize, decentralization means that there are nodes, which are computers everywhere, all over the world, at random locations of anybody who has the technical knowledge to be able to run a node. And in some cases, some blockchains, you don't really need any technical knowledge. You just need to download the node software. But those computers, anytime a transaction is done, those nodes all check and verify each other to make sure that they all have the exact same answer. And whenever they do have the same answer, that transaction is verified. And that is decentralization. And the more nodes you have, in this last episode that I did, I looked at various blockchains, and I looked at how many nodes there are. Like Harmony had like 278 nodes. Bitcoin has like 14,655 nodes or something like that. You know, so there's a lot of nodes on some blockchains, and some blockchains don't really have any nodes. And you also have to look out, whenever you look at the list of nodes, are all these nodes owned by one company, you know, or are the majority of nodes owned by one company? That's something else to consider too. So you really need to consider how centralized these are, because blockchain at its heart is supposed to be decentralized. You know, hey, what's up, Russian person? I can't understand what you're saying. So, but hey, well, good morning, or it's probably evening for you, but or afternoon. But anyway, yeah. So blockchain came about through decentralization, and that's where it needs to stay in my book. Otherwise, it becomes nothing more than just a CBDC to basically lock you into some kind of enslavement society. You know, yeah. So the haves and the have-nots. You know, so anyway, there are a lot of developments that it's really hard to scale up decentralized blockchains, so you still have Bitcoin running at a very low transaction per second rate and Ethereum running at a very low transactions rate, and these are called layer ones, and we've tried to alleviate this situation, specifically on Ethereum, by adding layer 2 solutions, and to run certain computations offline, to run some data storage offline, and all different types of different ways of approaching it, running side chains in parallel that use the security of the main blockchain, so you can speed it up. And when you scale something, think about it this way. I've used this example before, the Dome Foam. That was the beer at the Astrodome, right? And a lot of people really liked that beer in the 80s when the Astrodome was around. So maybe, say for instance, some company wants to capitalize on that love and that nostalgia for the Dome Foam beer, and they wanted to mass produce it for the entire world. So instead of just for 10,000 people, they want to mass produce it for 10 million people, but they have to keep that exact same type of ingredient that makes that exact same type of foam that everybody loves so much, and they have to apply it to such a larger scale, and that's scalability. Okay, so what these layer 2 solutions are trying to do is to produce the same transactional effect and speed on a small network that you would have on a gigantic network. And so, or to improve the speed. In Bitcoin's case, I can't remember how much it is, but it's pretty low. It's like 6 to 14 transactions per second or something. And in terms of blockchains, that's really slow. But what if you could make that and scale it up towards like 1,000 transactions per second? Like Ethereum, same thing. Same concept. So, but a lot of these layer 2 solutions are being built on Ethereum. So what are some of these layer 2 solutions? Well, one of them right now is currently Rollups. So Rollups is at the bleeding edge of the technology, right? And what Rollups does is it bundles up a bunch of transactions offline, and then once it has bundled them up, it sends the transaction on, not offline, but on the side, and then it verifies them on chain. Here, so actually, I will let Hacker Noon sit here and explain it. Okay, so explained simply, ZK Rollup is a smart contract that takes hundreds of transactions off the main blockchain and bundles them into a single transaction. It then sends the validity proof back to the main blockchain, right? So this reduces the amount of data being sent through Ethereum's main blockchain, layer 1, enabling faster and cheaper transactions. Because what a lot of people don't know is, well, you will learn if you do something like staking, or if you lock stuff up on synthetics or something like that. But you will learn that the more text there are, and the more computations there are in a blockchain, that the more expensive it gets. So the more code you put into a smart contract, the more that takes up room on the blockchain, and that room is real estate, and then it costs more. So that's, you don't want an expensive transaction that uses up tons of gas. So ZK Rollups is a smart contract that takes hundreds of transactions off the main blockchain and bundles them into a single transaction. It then sends the validity proof back to the main blockchain saying, hey, this transaction is okay. And it reduces the amount of data being sent through Ethereum's main chain, enabling faster and cheaper transactions. Okay, so zero knowledge rollups are smart contracts that scale the Ethereum network by processing multiple transfers off the main blockchain. Let me make sure that's on screen. Okay, cool. All right, so ZK rollups by taking hundreds of transfers off chain and combining or rolling them up into a single transaction. It then submits a SNARK, a succinct, non-interactive argument of knowledge, back to the main chain as proof of validity. So it uses a zero knowledge SNARK. All right, the succinct, non-interactive argument of knowledge, and back to the main chain of proof of validity. Validating a block with a ZK rollup is faster and cheaper since less data is included. All right, so before I move on, there are now, so that was ZK SNARKs, right? And it is a way to be able to prove something without actually showing the answer. And a lot of people commonly use the parable of Alibaba's cave, in which you go in a cave and there's two doors, and there's a door at the back of the cave. So there's two paths, and then anybody can go down either side of the path, but you have to show proof that you've gone through the door at the back, right? So there has to man, you know what? Just no, forget it. I'm not even gonna try to explain it. Just Google Alibaba's cave and ZK Snark. It's an interesting parable. I just can't explain it right now here because there's a lot of other stuff I want to get to. All right, so let's move on forward here. I saw the ZK Snarks versus ZK Starks. Okay, so ZK Snarks is a way of proving that you have an answer without actually divulging the information to that answer, right? So, so for instance, say they always use the going to the bar to, answer, and you have to prove that you're 21, and you show them your license, and instead of it showing your birth date and all that information, personal information about you, all you have to show is green, a little green light on your phone that says, yes, I'm over 21. In the case of the jab pass, it would be that too, without showing, of course, that is personal medical information. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so ZK Snarks versus ZK Starks, a primer. So, all right. So, introducing ZK Snarks. ZK Snark is an acronym: Zero Knowledge, Succinct, Non-Interactive Argument of Knowledge. Okay, that's ZK Snarks, and ZK Starks is the newer version. It's an acronym for Zero Knowledge, Scalable, Transparent Arguments of Knowledge. Okay, so right now there are several forms of ZK Snarks and ZK Starks right now of Layer 2 solutions. So that's where I'm going with all this. Layer 2 solutions are there to scale up the Layer 1 decentralized platforms to where they're not fast. So they're trying to scale them up. So they're using Layer 2 solutions to try to scale it up and speed it up. Okay, and so they have two versions of that right now, which are SNARKs and STARKs. And then, of course, there's a bunch of other different types of Layer 2 solutions, which I won't talk about here. But, okay, so the ZK SNARKs is the acronym stemming from the 2012 UC Berkeley paper by Alessandro Chiesa. ZK Snarks uses elliptic curves to secure the randomness required for a proof. Elliptic curves are collision resistant, which means that it's very hard to find two separate inputs that produce the same output. If you're interested in learning more about elliptic curves, this video is a great introduction. So I'll put this link in the video description so you can go to it. ZK Snarks were first introduced in blockchain by Zcash, a fork of Bitcoin. Because ZK Snarks have been around longer, they have a lot of documentation, tooling, and are easier to get into as a developer compared to Starks. There are some downsides to existing implementations, such as no post-quantum resistance, a problem for next decade. So I'll be a grandpa by that time, and initial trust requirements. So that's the downside to it. There's no post-quantum resistance and initial trust requirements. So regardless of the downside, SNARKs offers much more than optimistic rollups as shown below. All right. So one issue with SNARKs is they usually require a trusted setup. To mitigate the trust problem, ZK Sync has introduced a universal trusted sync setup for ZK Sync version 1, which is much more compared to previous application-specific setups. All right, so then we have ZK Starks, which is brand spanking new. All right, and ZK Snarks works with the Ethereum virtual machine. It works with the Ethereum Solidity language. It's real. It's not easy to implement, but it can be a little more familiar and a little more established for developers. Where ZK Starks uses an entirely other different language. It uses a language called Cairo, and it doesn't. It's a little bit more of a learning curve, I would say, to get into, from what I understand. But there are a lot of benefits to it. So being much more recent, ZK Starks has less tooling and developer support, but that is starting to change. Introduced in 2018 by Eli Ben-Sasson, Ido Bentov, and Yinon Horishi and Michael Ryabzev, Starks operate differently under the hood. ZK Stark is an acronym for Zero Knowledge, Scalable, Transparent Arguments of Knowledge. The main difference between SNARKs and STARKs is that a STARK uses collision-resistant hash functions instead of elliptical curves. elliptic curves. There are some downsides of STARKs as well, mainly that proof sizes are much larger than a SNARK proof and take longer to verify, as well as cost more gas. The trade-off is worth it, however, because the effective TPS, transactions per second, and throughput ceiling is much higher than a SNARK. So SNARKs are more scalable than SNARKs, and with validiums, which store off-chain, the gas ceiling that developers have had to deal with on layer 1s is effectively gone. So yeah, STARKs are much more advanced. They're a lot more new. So it's really interesting to see, and there's a lot of stuff being built with STARKs right now. So anyway, so beyond L2, scalability is very close to becoming infinite. So this is beyond the layer 2 solutions that we're building now. We're thinking layer 3 now. So scalability is about to be infinite, which will open doors to a truly trustless, fast, and low-cost application layer secured by Ethereum. Starkware is working on recursive STARKs known as layer 3s, which stretch scaling even further. So they have a privacy StarkNet that they're working on now. The zero knowledge space is still in an area of active research, and there's still a lot of work to be done before we reach the end game. And the end game is Vitalik Buterin's white paper, where he talks about rollups basically. But the tech is advancing rapidly and moving away from layer 1 towards a rollup centric future. Okay, so here I believe. Okay, that's that MIT paper that talks about the invention of ZK SNARKs. Here's zkrollups.xyz. That's a website. And let's check it out here. There is a really good Twitter thread too. Swagtimus.eth. So let me pull this up real quick. You should follow this guy on Twitter. Swagtimus, SWAGTIMUS.eth, and he's coming out with a weekly newsletter on all the new developments surrounding STARKs. So kind of how like Anthony Sassano does with Ethereum. He has the Daily Gwei. Well, this is kind of like that, but it's in or they have the weekly Ethereum update as well. But this is for StarkNet specifically. So it'll keep you on the bleeding edge of what's happening on StarkNet. So if I can ever get this tweet to pull up, swagtimus.eth, yeah, he's got himself a little Substack blog going called the StarkNet Roundup. And all right. And so obviously he's like super about ZK rollups, and there are other layer 2 solutions, so keep that in mind. But right now ZK rollups is the thing, is the fad. It's where everybody before they were saying everything was an Ethereum killer, all these new layer 1 blockchains popping up and stuff like that. But now are there going to be Arbitrum killers? Because Arbitrum was the first ZK. Well, no, actually Optimism was the first ZK rollup to come out. But that hasn't really done much. They've gotten it working on synthetics. They're using it on Uniswap, and that's about it. So then Arbitrum comes in and goes public, and then Arbitrum, that has tons of different dApps on Arbitrum, and then ZK Sync came out, and then now Starkware as well has come out since then. So StarkNet Roundup number 1. Here's swagtimus.eth if you can see this. Okay, so let me make sure you can see this on the computer, on the old computer. Shite, what did I just hit? I just hit the intro. Okay, let me turn this off. Okay, so let me zoom this out so you can see the very top of the page. Okay, so there is swagtimus.eth. Okay, and he says, every week I will summarize all notable events that happen within the StarkNet protocol and ecosystem, carefully curated, delivered straight to your inbox. So I subscribed. Yeah. So this is a really good newsletter. So it's right here on Substack, swagtimus.substack.com. And let me get this page loaded. Well, I always have to say load ever since Dumb and Dumber when they were saying road. Or was that in Half Baked, that movie? I don't know. But anyway, StarkNet Roundup number 1. So good morning to fellow Stark enthusiasts. This is the first weekly summary of everything that's going on with the StarkNet protocol and ecosystem. Buckle up, lots of things to dive into. Let's get right into it. If you're a developer, there's a lot of stuff for you here. You can go play around on the Cairo network. Dope Wars. A game that's built on StarkNet. It's the first type of DeFi game, kind of like Avogachis and stuff like that, that is being built on Starkware. So that's coming out, and they should be coming out this month or next month or something. Bricks, a Minecraft-like NFT game, launched in alpha and can be tested using the Argent X wallet. There's a community effort to port Aave version 3 to StarkNet. MakerDAO is looking into supporting direct minting of DAI on StarkNet rollups. So Rare, the fantasy football NFT game, will likely be the first StarkNet instance. And then tennis superstar Serena Williams has joined Sorare, however do you want to say it? Space MMO game Influence is inching towards its exploitation release, which will launch on StarkNet. Zorro, a proof of personhood protocol on StarkNet, just launched their landing page and white paper, and that's getting into the whole digital ID type of thing, a proof of humanity, and all types of stuff that you see on Ethereum mainnet right now. Let's see. Guilty Gyoza is experimenting with 3D graphics, and there's a lot of stuff. Look at all the stuff that's happening on Starkware. So, So I would highly recommend subscribing to this newsletter. There's a really good Reddit post, and then Polinia is the one that wrote it, apparently. And if you don't follow Polinia's Medium blog, I would definitely recommend it. So that's Pollynya, and there's a lot of really great information about the latest Ethereum stuff, the latest rollups, all the developments. But this post here originated from a Reddit post. I guess Polinia authored this, and so anyway, they talk about the big four contract rollup chains: Arbitrum, Optimistic Ethereum, ZK Sync 2.0, and StarkNet. And this was posted back in June. All right. So he says, I've talked about rollups at length in my previous posts, and this is without a doubt the biggest paradigm shift in this industry since Ethereum introduced smart contracts in 2015. So rollups are the next big paradigm shift. We had smart contracts in 2015. You had ICOs in 2017 and stuff like that. You had in 2020 the DeFi craze. 2021 we've been doing NFTs this whole last year, and I think this year is the year for DAOs and rollups. We've had application-specific rollups live for a year now, but now it's time to take the next step and release fully programmable smart contract rollup chains. This post is a brief summary of the big four smart contract rollups. Before you ask, no, they don't have tokens yet, but I believe all four will have tokens in the future, with ZK Sync being most likely to be the first to have a token. If you want to gain exposure, invest in application protocols deploying to them and the L1 these rollups choose. Yeah, so invest in Ethereum if you want to invest in rollups right now, because none of these rollups have tokens. However, it's not quite a roll-up. I was about to say the Boba network, but Boba has a network, has a coin. But ZK Sync, they say that they will be dropping a coin, a token. So I would recommend you go and play on all these different solutions, these layer 2 solutions, and get your MetaMask wallet address logged in as having used it. So that's what I did with ZK Sync. I obviously have with Arbitrum. I haven't quite. Yes, I did actually do one swap on Ethereum with Optimism, and then StarkNet. I can't say I've really done much on there. I have poked around on Immutable X, which does have a token, but that's an app using Starkware. And I do have Dope Wars paper token. But yeah, so none of these have tokens yet. So and Arbitrum claims that they might not ever have a token themselves. But don't discount it. So anyway, Off-Chain Labs' first chain Arbitrum 1 has been deployed on mainnet. Several high-profile apps like Uniswap version 3, Maker, SushiSwap, Aave have already been deployed, committed to soon. So now Arbitrum is the largest roll-up. It wasn't the first roll-up, but it's the largest roll-up right now. This makes Arbitrum already the most adopted chain by developers after Ethereum. That makes all that's remaining is to open the floodgates to users, which will happen when there are enough dApps deployed. Well, there are enough dApps deployed. If you go to Arbitrum portal, you can find just tons of dApps that you can play around with. Arbitrum is an optimistic rollup with a multi-round interactive dispute mechanism for fraud proofs. But optimistic rollups have a 7-day withdrawal period through multiple projects. So the thing about optimistic rollups, which is what Optimism and Arbitrum do, is there's a 7-day withdrawal period. ZK STARKS does not have this 7-day withdrawal period. So that's a plus of STARKS. However, there are things like Hop Protocol connects Seller and MakerDAI's bridge that eliminate this. And I've used Seller and Hop and some other different types of cross-chain bridges and stuff like that that have worked just beautifully. And I didn't have to wait 7 days for it, because what they do is they mint and burn tokens. And so they take care of that 7-day waiting period for you, I think, and through some kind of minting and burning mechanism. So you, the consumer, don't have to wait 7 days. So anyway, and then the Arbitrum gas fee is a lot like the EI. It's inspired by EIP 15.9, which uses a burning mechanism to be able to make gas fees a little more predictable, to eliminate the spikes that happen so often whenever an NFT becomes super popular. So that's Arbitrum. Optimistic Ethereum was built by Optimism PBC, and it was once the front runner. However, since then, only Synthetics has been whitelisted, and Optimism has done a generally poor job at communicating. They've lost their leadership position to Arbitrum decisively at this time, and that was in June, and it's still the case. But unlike Arbitrum, Optimism uses a single round fraud-proof mechanism. So I'm not going to go into the details. Okay, then there's ZK Sync. They have several key advantages over optimistic rollups, chiefly more advanced aggregation techniques, and most importantly, instant withdrawals on ZK Sync. For many, ZK rollups are considered the final form of scalable blockchains. Some people say that is the creme de la creme. Indeed, most of the application-specific rollups live since last year are ZK rollups. It's just been a challenge to make them programmable until now. This is the one that is probably going to have the token first. And you can go and you can use ZK Sync and get your MetaMask logged in there. So lastly, StarkNet. Starkware's StarkX solution has been live for an entire year now and powers diversified DYDX, is like the main use case, and Immutable X for NFTs. If you want a showcase of rollup tech today, it doesn't get much better than DYDX. Instant trade, zero gas fees is as perfect as a centralized exchange, and except it's fully decentralized. So yeah. All right, so StarkNet requires programming in their own language, Cairo, and it has a custom virtual machine. So that's kind of a downside, but maybe not. I don't know. While there's some rumbling about transpilers for Solidity and other EVM programming languages, there's no word on this so far. Starkware can claim Cairo, and StarkNet will enable a new class of applications not possible in Layer 1. So you have, Optimism, Arbitrum, and ZK Sync, which any Solidity developer, which right now Solidity is the most common development language for smart contracts, and so any Ethereum developer can come along and create something for all those three rollups. Not quite so with StarkNet. They have to learn Cairo, and I don't know how hard or easy Cairo is, or if it's easy to know if you know Solidity or whatever, but it's just a learning curve there. But Starkware can claim Cairo, and StarkNet will enable a new class of applications not possible in Layer 1. StarkNet may end up being the most technologically advanced smart contract chain on the planet, but will developers abandon their Layer 1 code bases for Cairo? It's definitely a different approach, and it'll be curious to see how things play out. So anyway, I gotta go. I'm at 34 minutes, and I gotta get to work. It's raining out. It's gonna be a long commute today for me. So I just wanted to get back on the bandwagon here. I slacked off over the weekend. I spent time with my family, so you can't fuss about that. I wanted to get back on it and get the episodes rolling again. I have 4 more episodes till episode 400, and then I'll take another quick break. So, I like my weekends. I like to sleep in. Sleep in till like 7, but I like to sleep in. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and yeah, we'll see. I'll probably continue this whole layer 2 conversation because I have a lot more tabs that I really need to get. Hey, what's up, Wuntan? Good morning. Hey, Mad Mookie. Thanks for jumping on and listening, you guys. Just sitting here talking layer 2 solutions, man. You know, Starkware, ZK Snarks, DK Starks, and all that good stuff. So I will come back tomorrow. I got a lot more tabs I got to get through, and yeah, we'll continue this conversation. So take it easy, y'all. Later.
Thank you for making it to the end of this program. If you actually like this content, give a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, just hit the subscribe button. I'm available on YouTube, Odyssey, and BitChute, and on all the major podcasting platforms in audio version. Spotify specifically. If you would like to follow and leave a review, that would help a lot. I am also available on Twitter at EurekaJohn1. That's EUREKA John, JOHN, and the number 1. My DMs are always open. Feel free to shoot me a message. Thanks again.